What's up, everybody? I'm David Hain. Welcome to episode 120 of the A to D from Addict to Disciple podcast. If you like our episodes and want to help us reach more people in more cities, in more countries, please like, subscribe, follow, and share the link with your friends. Or click on the support link in this episode's description. Your donation of any amount could change a life. If you'd like to get our curriculum, you can get the paperback or ebook of From Ashes to Destiny on Amazon. When we come back, we'll get into this episode entitled Self-Sabotage. Welcome back to episode 120 of the A to D from Addict to Disciple podcast entitled Self-Sabotage. Let me start by thanking the quick responses I got from last week's podcast on futility. I heard from several listeners within a few hours after the podcast dropped saying, "David, you left me hanging at the end when you challenged me to start over. You see, I'm clean now, but I'm still caught in futility, and people are telling me it's because I'm self-sabotaging. Help!" Another message I received said, "I've never been an addict, but you've got me wondering if maybe I'm addicted to futility because I always seem to mess up every opportunity that comes my way. How do I move forward? Can you help me?" So basically, these and other messages were saying, don't leave us hanging there, David. Let's take this futility thing to the next step and say, if I'm undermining or self-sabotaging everything, how do I recognize it and how can I move forward? So that's what we'll try to get you some information on today. I hope we succeed. So let's start by talking about what self-sabotage really is and what it includes. So I'll give you a list of things that come to my mind. The first is self-doubt, where you're sort of trapped in doubting whether you actually can change, whether you can actually move forward. You sort of stay stuck where you're at. And this settles into where you refuse to ask for help. And if people come around and offer help or encouragement or advice, it just sort of goes in one ear and out the other because you doubt whether any of this stuff even applies to you at all. So if you're stuck in self-doubt, that is a form of self-sabotage. The second one I'd like to talk about is self-abandonment. And this is where your self-doubt becomes negative self-talk all the time. And self-criticism, which can become extreme to where you're always talking bad about yourself, you're always thinking bad about yourself. And in reality, you've actually abandoned yourself. You're not a friend of yourself. As a matter of fact, you can get to the point where you're your own worst enemy and you self-sabotage without even thinking about it because you've abandoned yourself. And this can be tied into a fear that you're not enough. You've never been enough. You've never been accepted for who you are. And you feel you have to prove yourself or do something to earn friends or to earn respect. And so you find yourself constantly seeking approval of others or constantly seeking acceptance from others. And you end up doing silly looking things just to get attention in hopes that this attention can make you at least feel accepted because you're stuck in that feeling that you're not enough and maybe you'll never be enough. Another type of self-sabotage I call self-destruction. And this is where you're building your own loneliness. You just get involved in things that are a form of self-injury mentally. And it, can also include physical harm to yourself like cutting. But you're actively avoiding and withdrawing from others. You're building your own loneliness. You fall into maybe comfort eating or other behaviors that just slowly but surely eat away at any part of yourself that could improve, could change, and could find friendship and acceptance. And this is stemmed often from a self-dislike, where you don't like yourself, you don't love yourself, and you're always beating yourself up. Another form of self-harm, you're beating yourself up with these negative thoughts of guilt or shame. And I like a quote from Willie Nelson where he challenges us on this, and he says, and I quote, "Once you replace negative thoughts with positive ones, you'll start having positive results." Let me say that again. Once you replace negative thoughts with positive ones, you'll start having positive results. So how do you start to have positive thoughts about yourself and get away from this self-dislike where you're always thinking negative about yourself? Another form of self-sabotage I'll call self-undermining. And this is where it can be as simple as you set goals that are too low, and then when you accomplish them, you don't even have anything to celebrate because you just think, there was nothing to that. I just did it and anybody could have done it. Or you set your goals too high that are unreachable for anyone, and then you undermine your goals and your values by gossiping or habitually being late or getting involved in passive-aggressive behavior with others or expecting perfectionism from you and all your friends. And all these thoughts and activities lead to people underestimating your own capabilities. And so you find less and less people encouraging you, and you might even get caught up like picking fights or starting conflicts with your friends or loved ones as just a way to continue to undermine your views of yourself. A big one that you always hear about is substance abuse, where we get caught up in self-medicating. And then in the midst of this, we make excuses or blame shift to throw the blame on someone else and sort of justify and rationalize what we're doing. But other forms of overdoing it, I guess we could call it, could be involved in overspending, overworking, overtrying, or oversleeping, where you're not doing anything and you're just getting addicted to being the victim in your own mind and convincing yourself that you deserve all this bad stuff that's happening to you. And you get to where you're convinced that you don't deserve a break. You don't deserve a better life. You don't deserve love. You don't deserve acceptance. You don't deserve even a friend. And you just isolate further and further. And isolation is a huge form of self-sabotage. And Willie Nelson sort of looks at it this way, where we can get to the point in this feeling that we don't deserve a break. And Willie Nelson's quote, which describes this, is, "What has changed is that nothing has changed. That's what's made me more unhappy than everything else." So, can you see the depth of that self-sabotage? Where we do everything we can, consciously or subconsciously, that undermine any chance of positive change. And we get to the point where we say, well, what has changed is nothing has changed. And that's why I'm so unhappy, because nothing has changed, and I believe nothing's going to change. Well, how do we stop self-sabotage? And I want to give you the last of the Willie Nelson quotes for today. He said, "When I start counting my blessings, my whole life turned around." So how do we get to that point where we start counting our blessings so we can begin our turnaround from self-sabotage to self-victory? I've got 5 ideas here. The first one is self-awareness. And I think this would be important to be able to work on. I've got in the From Ashes to Destiny curriculum a list of emotions as worksheets that you can keep track of your positive and negative feelings and emotions every day. And, just by ticking them off and saying, yep, I felt that one. Yep, I felt that one. But after being aware that you're feeling these things, it's important to be able to say, why do you feel that emotion? What's the source? Or what behavior did it fuel in you when you felt that emotion? So not just identifying the source, but identifying what comes out of you when you feel those emotions. I call that self-awareness. The second one is self-transparency. And I think it's important in this one to get a coach, a counselor, a sponsor, a small group, people to talk to and be transparent with. And as you share with them and they give you feedback, apply what you are hearing. Don't just let it go in one ear and out the other. Make positive steps to jot down what they're saying, and then figure out how you can begin to apply it, even in little ways, every day. The third item I have to talk about for how you could stop self-sabotage is a self-inventory. So link your daily choices and behaviors to long-term goals. As you're jotting these things down, these behaviors and these thoughts, begin to make your short game, the things you're changing to count your blessings, so to speak, make that short game be part of your long game and not just a snapshot of what you did today. Begin to plot out how these little changes can build upon each other to become big changes, which become part of your long game. The fourth one is self-love. And quite simply, it's begin to become your own friend. Start making changes in thoughts and behaviors to become someone you would want to be friends with. Be kind to yourself. Speak positive things about yourself. And begin to like that person in the mirror when you see them. And pause and reflect while you're staring at the mirror why you like them. Begin that positive self-talk so you grow in self-love. The fifth and last one I'd like to talk about today is called self-worth. And to me, this is knowing and embracing your strengths, what you're good at, and importantly, accept compliments when people give them to you, and turn your self-critical thoughts into self-complimentary ones also. Okay, there's a good list of 5 things everyone can start doing this week. I'd like to close with some lyrics from the song Self-Sabotage by Abe Parker. He said, "How do you get out of your head, telling yourself you won't make it? And second nature is to second guess. You burn every bridge before you cross. Wave a white flag before you've lost. How do you not self-sabotage? Oh, the only one in my way is me. How do I learn to set me free?" I think that's the key. How can you learn to set yourself free and not self-sabotage? And one final thought comes from actress Goldie Hawn, who said, and I quote, "The only thing that will make you happy is being happy with who you are and not who people think you are." Thanks for listening to this episode of the A to D From Addict to Disciple podcast. If you'd like to join an online group or get one-on-one counseling to help you with your self-sabotage, please message me on the link in this podcast or by email at davidfromatod@gmail.com, or go to my website, www.fromatod.org, and click on the contact page. And I know if you're self-sabotaging, you're not going to do those things, so I want to encourage you again. Please do it. I've got room in my schedule to add some people for Zoom counseling, coaching, however it works for you, Zoom, WhatsApp, we can make it happen. So please reach out. You can also keep in touch with what we're doing in From A to D by following me on Instagram at David From A to D. Tune in Monday for our next episode, and as always, stay safe and stay strong.